Oftentimes, reading requires a lot of patience and imagination, and researchers have suggested that about 68% of people do not like reading. So in this day and age, how do you improve your concentration and how do you improve your reading strategies and reading skills so that you can score better in IELTS reading? So in today's video, we are going to talk about some of the tips and tricks, and we will be also going through a few sample questions in terms of how you can improve your reading in relation to IELTS test. So without further ado, let's dive into this video. Before that, if you're landing on this page for the first time, then hi, I'm IETLS Sejpal. I make videos about working abroad, studying abroad, and I live in Canada, so you'll be also finding some of the Canada vlogs on my channel. Now, before I begin, I would just like to say why I'm making this IELTS video. Because I have been teaching IELTS courses for over 6 years now. Yes, I know that sounds like a huge deal, but that isn't. Ever since I came to Canada, one of my very first part-time jobs was to teach IELTS courses to international students, and that's only because I had scored 9 out of 9 band in IELTS. And, it was just one of the skills that came to me right away. And out of transparency, one thing that I would like to mention is that reading has always been one of the very interesting hobbies for me. I could probably read as many books as you could give me and I will not be bored of it. But again, just like everybody else, my genre that I like reading is about fiction. Now, why am I saying this to all of you? It's because even a voracious reader like me could also run into issues if they are given something that they don't enjoy. So the very first tip is, of course, for you to enjoy reading. Now, that is not something that's going to happen overnight. So let's dive into our first point of how you can improve your IELTS reading scores. There are just tons of videos out there telling you about the question types and how you can approach them, but none of the videos are actually talking about how you could even develop that interest towards reading, right? Reading is a learned skill, and when I say it's a learned skill, means that it's just like cooking. For example, once you start cooking, then over a period of time, you will acquire it even better and you will become a great cook. So just like that, reading is also an acquired skill. And what I mean by that is once you start reading, then you will start to get into it. And even if you don't like it, which you don't have to for the sake of IELTS, but even if you don't like it, you will be at a stage where you can score good grades. So in order to improve your reading skills, the first thing that you have to do is take up anything that you like. So for example, let's say if you like sports, then you can always take up a sports news or something, pick up one article and try to read it every day. If you are interested in investing and finances, then try to get that and then start reading. Now, this is for the first time readers, right? But if you have already been reading those things, then perhaps you might want to try and read something outside of your comfort zone. So for example, I come from a science background and I love reading fictions and anything that relates to science. But I hate reading history and other related, other art and culture related stuff. So when I was preparing for the IELTS, the very first thing that I did is I started reading something that relates to arts and culture. Now again, even reading one paragraph related to arts and culture was like giving my brain a shock. So of course, start small steps. And what I mean by that is take up something that you don't like reading and just start reading. And after reading, try to ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1 is, what is the main idea of these 2 paragraphs that you read? And number 2 is, what is the gist of this? If you were to summarize these 2 paragraphs into 2 lines, how would you do that? And by doing that, you will be practicing reading, and that in turn will help you skim and scan as well. So the second point is skimming and scanning. So let's learn skimming part first. Skimming is something different than scanning, and I always had issues with understanding how to exactly skim through. So here is a basic difference between skimming and scanning. You always scan for the information, whereas you skim for overall meaning. Whereas in scanning, you are looking for specific information, but while you are skimming through the paragraph, you are making note of important events. So for example, you are looking at a paragraph and trying to understand which years are presented, if there are any important names, places, events that are mentioned. And sometimes scanning is a little bit more in depth as compared to skimming. So I hope that is a little bit clear. So let's move on to looking at some examples and doing some exercise. So let's look at this one, and we are just practicing skimming over here. We are still not going on to scanning. So just look through, read through the paragraph, or rather like skim through the paragraph and try to answer these two questions. So pause this video now, read or rather skim and answer questions, put them in the comments below so that I can correct it and give you feedback on it. So now let's go on to scanning, and you will notice that even the question itself is quite different, and it's a little bit broader as compared to the previous questions. So let's scan through, pause this video and write your answers in the comment section below. If you need my feedback, I'm very happy to give it to you. So feel free to put both answers in the comment section below. And the third and the most important part is understanding vocabulary. Many times as an international student, one thing that you are trained to do is mug up the vocabulary without understanding a real idea of how that could be used in different contexts. So always make sure to understand the vocabulary. And how do you do that? Not by mugging it up, but by two means. Number one is when you're reading through a text, try to understand the vocabulary in context. Sometimes some of the words could be used in different contexts, and it can vary according to different passages. The next one is know what types of questions are going to come. There are several different types of questions that are asked, and make sure that you read the headings very properly. Lastly, pay attention on time. IELTS is all about doing those 40 questions in about 1 hour. And I'd say don't count exactly 1 hour. Keep about 5 minutes at the end for anything unexpected. So do all 3 passages in about 55 minutes. And lastly, I have put the links in the description box below to the free IELTS reading tests that I have found. And in case if you have more questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you good luck for your IELTS test and see you next time. Until then, bye.